My wife cheated on me with her boss, then stole $200, $0 from our joint account and claimed she deserves half of our house. Now she's suing me for everything, and I just found out she's been secretly planning it for months. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. The most unexpected thing happened. My wife, Lisa, turned out to be cheating on me with her boss, and not just that, she stole a couple of $100,000 from our joint account. It hit me like a freight train when I found out she's now suing me for half our house, claiming she deserves what's hers. The whole thing's been unraveling for months, and I just didn't see it coming. We had a decent life, or so I thought. I met Lisa 5 years ago at a friend's wedding, and we clicked almost immediately. She was smart, beautiful, a little bitchy but charming in her own way. We married 2 years later, bought a house in the suburbs, and everything seemed fine. Or at least that's what I told myself. She was always a little distant sometimes, but I thought it was just work stress. Or her trying to get ahead. She's a high-powered marketing exec, always busy, always on her phone. I was just a regular guy working as an accountant, and I was happy enough. But over the past few months, I started noticing small things: her phone ringing at odd hours, her avoiding certain conversations, and her being more secretive than usual. I'd catch her lying about where she was going or who she was talking to. She'd dismiss it with a sharp attitude, calling me paranoid or insecure. The usual. Still, I kept my guard up, telling myself I was overthinking it. Then came the night I found her phone open on the kitchen table. I saw a string of texts from some guy named Mark, her boss. The messages weren't just professional compliments, they were flirty. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one said. "Had a rough day, need some stress relief," another. I froze, my stomach clenched. I looked at her and she was in the living room, fake laughing at something on her laptop. I wanted to confront her right then, but I hesitated, trying to process what I was seeing. That night I couldn't sleep. The next day I decided to dig deeper. I went through her emails, her bank statements, anything I could get my hands on. That's when I saw the real shocker: an enormous withdrawal of $200, $0 from our joint account. It was labeled as business investment, but I knew better. I called the bank and they confirmed she made the withdrawal last month. I couldn't believe she'd steal that much money without telling me. I felt sick. How long had she been planning this? Was she planning to leave me all along? That's when I started putting the pieces together. The affair, the money, her sudden change in attitude. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The woman I loved, who I thought loved me back, was cheating and stealing behind my back. I didn't even know who she was anymore. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all these signs? How did I not see it coming? I had no choice but to confront her. I waited until she came home that evening, her heels clicking on the floor as she entered. I was sitting on the couch, trembling, trying to keep my voice steady. I told her I knew about her affair and the money. Her reaction: she threw a tantrum, calling me insecure, paranoid, and jealous. She claimed Mark was just a close friend, that I was overreacting, and that I was just jealous because she was successful and I was just an ordinary guy. She said she deserved better, that she had been stressed at work, that I was just a boring accountant who couldn't give her what she really wanted. I couldn't believe her lies. She was so dismissive, so cold. It was like talking to a stranger. I felt my blood boiling, but I kept my composure. I told her I wanted an explanation, a straight answer. Instead, she accused me of controlling her, of not trusting her, and basically told me I was lucky she hadn't left me already. That was the moment I realized she'd been planning to screw me over for a long time. She was so confident, so dismissive of everything I said, like she was untouchable. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I loved her, I really did. But now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been planning her escape for months. I was hurt, but also furious. How could she do this to me? How could she betray me and then turn around and lie so convincingly? I kept asking myself if I'd missed the signs, if I'd been blind to her true nature all along. The pain was overwhelming, and I knew I had to do something. I didn't want her to get away with this. I had to fight back. After that confrontation, everything started moving fast. I knew I couldn't just sit around and let her walk all over me anymore. I started digging into her plans, her moves, everything she'd been hiding. Turns out, she'd been secretly working with her boss, Mark, for at least 6 months. I found emails, secret exchanges about meetings, special projects, and even plans to get out of town once she had the money. It was all laid out in black and white. She'd been orchestrating her escape while pretending everything was fine at home. The worst part, she'd already started transferring money out of our joint account, more than I even realized at first. I checked the bank records again, and there were multiple transfers to an offshore account she'd created under a fake name. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She told me she was just trying to save for a big surprise vacation, but I knew that was a lie. She'd been funneling our money into her secret accounts, and she'd even taken out a second mortgage on the house, claiming it was for home improvements. All lies. She'd been draining us dry, setting herself up to leave me high and dry. At that point, I knew I had to act fast. I contacted a lawyer and we started building a case. I wanted to stop her from taking any more money, and I wanted to find out exactly how deep her plans went. I also hired a private investigator, something I never thought I'd do just to get proof. I needed hard evidence because I knew she'd deny everything. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. She'd been acting so innocent, so bitchy and dismissive, but behind that she was scheming. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind to her manipulation all this time. One of the biggest shocks came when I discovered her plan to claim half the house. She'd been talking to lawyers, drafting papers, and even hired a firm to prepare a lawsuit. She said she deserved half of everything, including the house we bought together, because she claimed she contributed her share of the mortgage and renovation costs. But here's the thing. She never contributed a dime beyond a few payments early on, and I'd been paying the mortgage on my own for over a year. Still, she insisted she was entitled to half because she deserved it. That's when I realized she was just trying to squeeze me dry to take everything I had worked for. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Every time I turned around, there was another lie, another betrayal. I couldn't believe how much she'd been lying and scheming behind my back. It was so calculated, so cold. I started to see her for what she really was, an opportunist, a user, someone who'd rather stab me in the back than work things out. I was furious, yes, but I also felt a deep sadness. How did I miss all these signs? How did I not see that the woman I loved was capable of this level of deceit? I made the tough decision to confront her again, this time with all the evidence in hand. I called her at work one afternoon, told her I knew everything and that I was done playing her game. I told her I was filing for divorce, that I was going to fight for my rights and protect what was mine. Her reaction. She yelled, called me insecure, accused me of being paranoid, and told me I was controlling. She said I was just jealous because she was successful and I was nothing special. That was the moment I realized she'd been spinning her lies for so long that she believed her own bullshit. She was convinced she could get away with everything. I also discovered that she'd been secretly planning to take the house, claiming she'd contributed enough financially to deserve half, even though she'd been passive and lazy for years. She'd been lying about her contributions, and now she was trying to use the law to take everything I had. It was a shock to realize how deep her scheming went, how coldly she'd planned her escape, and how she'd been lying every step of the way. I felt betrayed, furious, and honestly pretty broken, but I also knew I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let her get away with this, not after everything. Now I'm in the middle of a legal battle that's draining my soul. She's trying to take half the house, all the money she stole, and even more. She's suing me for half of everything, claiming she's entitled to it because she's contributed. But I have the proof. I know what she's been up to, and I'm determined to fight for what's right. It's a mess, no doubt, but I refuse to let her ruin me completely. I never thought I'd be here, fighting to keep what's mine against a wife-turned-enemy. But here we are. It's a nightmare I never saw coming. At this point, I was completely immersed in chaos. Every day felt like I was walking through a minefield, waiting for the next bombshell to drop. I kept thinking back to all those moments I ignored the signs, dismissed her little lies, and told myself everything was fine. Now, it was obvious she'd been planning this whole time. She'd been lying to my face, sneaking around, secretly draining our accounts and plotting her escape with Mark, her boss. And on top of that, she had the nerve to try and claim half the house, even though I'd been the one paying the mortgage and maintaining everything. The more I dug into her financials, the more I uncovered just how deep her deception went. She transferred money to offshore accounts, set up shell companies, and even used fake identities to hide her tracks. I learned she'd been funneling our savings into an account she kept hidden from me. All the while, she was telling me she was stressed at work, overwhelmed with deadlines, and just trying to get ahead. Yeah, right. She was trying to get away with everything, and she almost succeeded. I had to act fast. The lawyer I hired told me I needed to get a restraining order, freeze her accounts, and start the process of protecting my assets. I couldn't let her take anything else, especially not the house I paid for and not the money she'd stolen. I also decided I had to confront her directly with everything I'd uncovered. Show her I wasn't going to be played anymore. I wanted her to see that I knew exactly what she'd been up to. One day, I set up a meeting at her office. I brought all the evidence, bank statements, emails, the offshore account info, everything. She was caught off guard, her face pale when she saw the documents I laid out in front of her. She tried to deny everything, of course, calling it malicious accusations, but I had her dead to rights. I told her I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she wanted. I told her I was filing for divorce, and I was going to fight her for every penny, every inch of that house. I made it clear I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. Her reaction was pure rage. She yelled, called me controlling, insecure, and said I was ruining her life. She tried to play the victim, claiming I was just jealous of her success. That's when I snapped. I told her she was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. I told her I was done being her punching bag, that I was tired of her lies, and that she'd be held accountable. I could see her losing control, her bitchy facade cracking just a little. She knew she'd been cornered and she didn't like it. That day marked a turning point. I realized I had to be strong, not just for myself but for the truth. I filed for divorce, asked the court for a restraining order, and started the legal battle to protect my rights. It was terrifying, knowing she'd been secretly planning to take everything, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, I was taking control back. I wasn't going to let her destroy what little I had left. I couldn't believe how much I'd been, how deeply she'd betrayed me. It felt like losing a part of myself, my trust, my security, my home. But I knew I had to move forward no matter how painful it was. In the days that followed, I watched her try to spin her stories, to manipulate others, to paint herself as the victim. But I had the evidence and I had the truth. I also had a lot of anger at her for betraying me, for lying, for stealing, and for trying to ruin everything we built together. I kept asking myself why she did it, how she could be so selfish, so ruthless. I guess some people just aren't capable of true loyalty or love. All I know is I'm done trusting her. I'm done being a victim, and I'm determined to rebuild my life without her. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected, and honestly, it felt like I was just treading water, waiting for the next punch. Every day, I'd wake up thinking about how she managed to pull this off, how she turned our life upside down, all for greed and some misguided idea that she could just walk away with everything. I was furious, but I knew I had to keep my composure, stay strategic. The more I learned about her schemes, the more I saw how calculated her betrayal was. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer, and I was just the idiot who didn't see it coming. I started talking to other people, lawyers, financial advisors, even a private investigator I'd hired, trying to piece together everything. I needed to understand just how far she'd gone, how much she'd stolen, and how much she could possibly get away with. It was a brutal wake-up call. I never thought I'd be fighting my wife in court over money, love, and trust. But here I was, trying to hold on to what's left of my life. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting like she was the victim, crying, throwing tantrums, trying to sway friends and family to her side. She'd call me controlling, insecure, a terrible husband who didn't support her dreams. It was all a distraction. I knew her game now. She wanted sympathy, not accountability. But I had the proof, every email, every bank transfer, every lie she told. I was gathering everything for the court, ready to expose her for the manipulative, selfish person she'd become. One of the most shocking moments came when I discovered she'd hired her own lawyer, someone she'd met through her boss, Mark. They'd been working together behind my back, drafting papers, strategizing how to claim as much as possible from the house and the money she'd stolen. I couldn't believe how deep this went. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to take everything I had legally with her new lawyer's help. It was like a nightmare. I realized she was willing to burn down everything we'd built just to get her way. I also found out she'd been secretly talking to a real estate agent about selling the house after she got her hands on her share. She wanted out no matter what. She even tried to get a loan under her name, faking income, falsifying documents to refinance the house and get more cash. I was stunned. She was pulling out all the stops, leaving no stone unturned. All this while pretending to be the innocent victim. I felt sick thinking about how she'd lied to everyone, her family, her friends, me, and how she'd been planning her escape for months. The most painful part, seeing the house I worked so hard to pay off, knowing she wanted to take half of it. She was claiming she contributed her fair share because she paid a few utilities early on, but I'd been the one paying the mortgage, the taxes, the upkeep for over a year now. Still, she insisted she was entitled. It made me realize how warped her sense of entitlement had become. She was just trying to squeeze every penny out of me, out of what we built together. I started to realize how much of her lies were just her trying to justify her actions. She'd say she deserved everything because she was successful, that she was just trying to better herself. Meanwhile, she was secretly siphoning money and plotting her exit. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd always thought she was ambitious, maybe even a little bitchy, but I never imagined she'd be this manipulative and dishonest. I knew I had to stay strong and keep fighting. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I filed for a court order to freeze her assets, asked for full disclosure of her financials, and prepared for the worst. I also started documenting every interaction, every lie, every attempt she made to manipulate the situation. I wanted to make sure I had everything to prove she was just trying to cheat me out of my rightful share. It's hard to describe how betrayed I feel. On the outside, I look fine, going to work, handling things, trying to keep it together. But inside, I'm just a mess. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering how I missed the signs, how I let her get away with so much. It's like I was living with a stranger all along and I never knew her. The woman I married, the woman I loved, she's gone, replaced by someone who's only out for herself. It's a nightmare I can't wake up from, but I know I have to keep fighting for my dignity, my life, and my future. The legal battle has become my entire world now. Every morning I wake up with a knot in my stomach, knowing that she's out there trying to take everything I worked for, our house, our savings, even the little things that made my life stable. It's surreal how she's managed to spin everything around, playing the innocent victim while secretly scheming behind my back. She's calling her lawyer daily, pushing for a quick settlement, trying to get the court to see her side as the wronged wife. Meanwhile, I'm fighting tooth and nail to prove that her accusations are just a manipulation, a way to bleed me dry. I've had to dig through every piece of paper, every email, every bank statement to build my case. Her stories keep changing. One day she claims she's just stressed. At work, the next she says she's entitled to half because she contributed in her own way. It's all bullshit. She never contributed much beyond a few utility bills early on. I was the one paying the mortgage, maintaining the house, and working overtime to keep everything afloat. Still, she's trying to claim she deserves her fair share. And honestly, it's infuriating how she's twisting the truth to fit her narrative. One of the most startling revelations came when I found out she'd been secretly talking to a lawyer she met through Mark, her boss. They'd been strategizing behind my back, drafting papers, and planning how to maximize her cut. She's even been looking into selling the house after she gets her hands on her share, pretending it's for investment or moving on. The thought of her selling the home I paid for, where we built our life, just to fund her new life with Mark makes me sick. It's like she's willing to burn everything down just to get what she wants. And then there's the money she stole 200, gone. Transferred out of our joint account to some offshore account she set up under a fake name. I discovered it by accident while reviewing her emails and bank statements. I couldn't believe she'd been hiding that much cash from me, planning to disappear with it. I feel so betrayed, like she was never truly committed to us, just to her own greed. I confronted her about it and her reaction. She called me paranoid, insecure, and accused me of trying to control her. That's her favorite line: blame me for everything, make me doubt myself. But I have the evidence now. I know what she's done. The worst part is the emotional toll. I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes. I loved her, believed in us, but now I see her as a user, a liar. It's hard to accept that the woman I married is someone who would betray me so completely. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs, how I was so blind. Was I just naive? Or did I choose to ignore the warning signs because I didn't want to face the truth? Every day I wrestle with anger, sadness, and a deep sense of loss. I grieve for the woman I thought I knew, for the life we built. Despite everything, I've decided I'm not going down without a fight. I've hired a good lawyer who's helping me prepare for the court case. I've also started documenting everything: her lies, her manipulations, her financial schemes. I want the truth to come out, and I want to hold her accountable. I know she's trying to spin it so that she's the victim, but I refuse to let her manipulate the system. I want my house, my money, and my dignity back. It's hard to stay hopeful sometimes. I see her trying to rally support from her friends and family, spinning stories about how I'm the bad guy. But I know the truth. I know what she's done. And I know I deserve better than this betrayal. My life has been turned upside down, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. All I can do now is prepare for the fight ahead, stay strong, and hope that justice will prevail. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to look in the mirror and say I fought for what was right. The courtroom was the most intense experience of my life. Standing there, face to face with her, I felt every ounce of betrayal and anger I'd been holding on to pour out in that moment. She sat there, trying to maintain her composure, but I saw the cracks in her, the nervous glances, the fake tears she was so good at throwing around. She was desperately trying to spin her story, claiming she was innocent, that I was the one controlling her, that she only did what she did because she was stressed and under pressure. But I had the evidence: the emails, the bank transfers, her own lawyer's documents, and I made sure the judge saw every bit of it. My lawyer argued relentlessly, laying out the facts: how she'd been secretly draining our joint account, transferring money offshore, planning to sell the house, and lying about her contributions. I told the court how I'd been, how I'd loved her, and how her greed and manipulations had shattered everything. When it was her turn to speak, she tried to act contrite, but her words sounded hollow. She kept insisting she deserved half of everything, that she'd contributed in her own way, and that she was just trying to secure her future. But the judge saw through her. The evidence was too overwhelming. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. I was awarded the house, the remaining savings, and a partial settlement for the money she'd stolen. Her claims for half the house were dismissed. She hadn't contributed enough financially to justify it, and the court recognized her betrayal. The judge also ordered her to pay back the stolen funds, and she was hit with legal penalties for her financial deception. It was a victory, but it didn't erase the pain. It didn't undo the years of betrayal and lies. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The battle was over, but the scars remained. I had lost my marriage, my trust, and a big part of my life. But I also gained clarity. I realized I'd been too trusting, too naive, and that sometimes people are capable of unimaginable selfishness. I learned that greed and betrayal can hide behind a pretty face, and that you have to be vigilant, even with the people you love the most. Now I'm rebuilding. I've moved into a new place, started therapy, and focused on getting my life back on track. I still have moments of anger at her, at myself, at the whole situation. But I also have a sense of closure. I learned to trust my instincts again, to recognize red flags sooner, and to value myself more. I'm no longer the naive husband who thought everything was perfect. I'm stronger now, more cautious, but also more hopeful. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I'll say this: trust is fragile. When it's broken, it's brutal to put back together. But you can survive. You have to fight for yourself, for your dignity, and for the truth. Don't let anyone manipulate or steal from you, not emotionally, not financially. Stand your ground, gather your evidence, and fight for what's yours. The pain will fade with time, but the lessons stay with you forever. And in the end, you'll come out of it stronger than you ever thought possible.